Hello and welcome. In this short video presentation, I'm going to be discussing RHIT, what's called entry-level competencies, or for our purposes in this program, your general learning objectives. What we're going to talk about today is the connection actually between two things. One is those learning objectives and what they are and what they mean to you. And two, at what level of comprehension, if you will, that those particular topics should be taught at. Now, the objective or the goal behind this lecture is not to make you educators or to give you some insight into what we do as instructors. No, the general framework, the general message here is that you're responsible for your own learning. And within this program, as you move forward towards your RHIT and your associate's degree, you'll be required to master and to gain a set of established, clearly identified program outcomes, learning objectives. So I want to explain a little bit about that this morning and how something else is connected to that. And that document or that element is called Bloom's Taxonomy. So we'll get to this in just a minute. So that's the reason for this video presentation. But before we go forward, let's make sure that you've got two things in your hand from the Angel Classroom, or whatever software it is now. Thinking about that in the future. So first of all, you'll need this thing here, the RHIT Curriculum Roadmap. And that's in your Learning Objectives folder. Also, there's something in there called Bloom's Taxonomy. So if you would grab those two documents and come on back, then we can proceed. So I'll wait for you to grab those documents. Okay, welcome back. You did pause, didn't you? Okay, welcome back. All right, now that you have these two documents in your hand, let's do something together. And first of all, let's look at the RHIT Curriculum Roadmap. If you've got that now in your hand, look on the far left-hand side, and you can see in column 1, it states HIM Associate Degree Entry-Level Competencies, Student Learning Outcomes. Looks pretty familiar, doesn't it? That's what's tended to be used in this class as well, learning outcomes. What are you supposed to be learning as you're going through these particular classes? Okay, underneath that now, and then in the next row, is some other information that I'm sure you're going to identify as, okay, these are the learning outcomes. But note a couple things first. Roman numeral 1, domain, health data management. Okay, so everything that's related to health data management as far as the RHIT national exam is concerned can be found in this document, in this column, in this row. Okay, there are a variety of subdomains or subclassifications, and in this case, Roman numeral 1, subdomain A states subdomain is health data structure, content, and standards. And then underneath that, item number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or so on, whatever is involved in the curriculum model. Okay, so that being said, each one of our classes is identified to work or to address a specific learning objective, a global learning objective. So in Roman numeral 1, subdomain A, 3, let's say it's one of the things that we need to teach in a particular class is apply policies and procedures to ensure the accuracy of health data. Okay, example, one of the things we talked about in this class was what? Where does outside regulatory agencies, what kind of data sets are actually involved? Before we could even talk about how to master applying policies and procedures to ensure accuracy of health data, obviously you have to know what health data is. You have to know where it comes from. You have to know how it gets populated in a database. So you need all those background areas. And we'll talk about that in just a moment as well. Okay, so again, in column 1, we've got learning objectives. In row A, if you will. We've got a major domain, we've got a subdomain, and then all the subdomains that are listed below. That's what's going to be taught in that content area. That doesn't mean it's going to be taught all in one class. In fact, we teach a variety of these subjects across classes, believe it or not. They aren't all contained in just one. I'll explain that in a moment. Okay, let's move over to the right-hand side of the form and look at knowledge clusters or circular components. Now, this is actually more into the guts of what we're generally teaching in classes, and these become our course learning objectives or outcome learnings or learning objectives. So let's take an example. In the first set there, health data structure, content, and standards, it goes through a variety of bulleted items there, and the first one says data versus information. Obviously, we would have to pick the most appropriate class. Excuse me, my head's getting cut off there. You noticed that. Each one of the classes teaches sorry, stuttered there. Let's back up. Data versus information. Data versus information would have to be a topic or content item allocated to a particular class in the HIM program. All right, probably in statistics, but you also might have bumped into it in this particular class. What's the difference between data and information? Obviously, we'd have to define data, we'd have to define information, and then we'd have to be able to discriminate between the two. So defining data and defining information are typically learning outcomes that are of a fairly lower level. And when you're talking about those, the other document that comes in handy is this one here, the Bloom's Taxonomy. When you pull the Bloom's Taxonomy out, let's take a look at that. And you can see on the left-hand side, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Each one of those is a particular level of knowledge, level of understanding, as it relates to a content or a knowledge area. So look at number 1, knowledge, the remembering or recalling of appropriate and previously learned information. Much of what we've done in this class has been at that level, don't you agree? Know it when you see it, be able to basically describe it, recall. However, also on the right-hand side, it gives an explanation as to what actually is knowledge or recall. And then it says there, observation and recalling information, classifications and categories, major ideas, knowledge of major principles and theories of subject matter. We've done a fair amount of that in this class. And then learning objectives, phrasing, list, define, describe, identify, match, select, label, and so on. All of those learning objectives that you've seen, and again, particularly in this class, are pretty much at that level. So at the 100 level, that's what we're trying to establish, that's what we're trying to teach. Do you know it when you see it? And if you do, then that particular content item can be addressed at a later class, probably in a 200 level class. So you can go on through the various other required cognitive learning levels. All right, let's go back to the map. And again, data versus information. You can see out there to the right, there's a parentheses 4. As a model curriculum here, our program's desire is defined and indeed wants to be teaching at that content level at the cognitive level indicated 4. So all you have to do is come back over to Bloom's Taxonomy, look at number 4, and we better be at the analysis level, breaking down information and inferring. You guys are getting something out of the information, and you're making a prediction or assumption based upon solid evidence. Inferring to support divergent conclusions. So as you move from the 100 level classes to the 200 level classes, more and more of those level 4s and 5s start to become embedded within the program as well as the individual courses. Okay. Now, that's a little background on what we typically do as instructors to try to build these classes and make the framework look like it does. And it is primarily for this, of course, to address specific learning outcomes at the appropriate cognitive level, Bloom's taxonomy, cognitive level, so that you, the student, have the ability to first acquire the information, recall particularly, and then as you move through the program, through the 100 and 200 levels, you start to move towards the level 4 cognitive level as well as some of the 5s. So when you get to 200, it's already expected that you've got all this 100 level stuff done and that you've got it in your bag of tricks. So don't leave this stuff behind. Ever. Okay, so having said that, I would also like to just back up and talk a little bit about the program learning outcomes as far as the national exam is concerned. If you haven't pulled up that document, it's also in the folder this week, what's on the national exam. They do tell you what's on the national exam and what percentage or how much of it is on the national exam. And that's for RHIAs and as well as RHITs. So the material that's out there in our folder is for the national exam as it is composed at the present date, and I'm talking in 2010 right now. So that information is probably going to be good for a little while. When you pull that information up, you can also identify specifically what global outcomes you'll be responsible for at the national level on the national exam and how much you should know. And this information is not secret. It's designed to be put forward. You know, we're trying to be as plain and transparent as we can. This is what you're supposed to know. This is the level you're going to need to know it at. And if need be, you can actually identify each one of these learning objectives from the course content. Now, I doubt that we would want to ship out a crosswalk map because it's quite a detailed and tedious thing to look at. But each one of our classes is broke down to address this RHIT curriculum map or model curriculum. So if you wanted to, I'm sure you could talk to the program chair and maybe she would be so inclined as to ship a copy out for you. And yeah, that's what we're supposed to teach. So hopefully this particular discussion gives you a little bit fuller vision or a more global understanding of what the RHITs actually do. Now, in this RHIT curriculum map, if you printed out the whole thing, it's 10 pages, so make sure you do it back to back. But you can tell that there are up to Roman numeral 5 global learning objectives. So very briefly, number 1 is health data management. Number 2 is, let me get over to 2. Sorry about that. Coming. There we go. Health statistics, biomedical research, quality management. And then into 3 is health services organization and delivery. That's something you might want to look at because that's the objective of this particular class. And then over on domain 4, health information technology systems. And domain 5 is organization and management. That's HIM 242. And that concludes all of the major domains. So when you look at anything in any of our classes here, you should be able to allocate them directly to one of these global masteries or entry-level competencies that you're expected to have when you get out of this program. Okay. Thank you for your kind attention, and if you have any questions or issues that you'd like to have addressed specifically, you know where to put them. And so I'll be talking to you again soon.